Hi everyone, and welcome back to our Facebook Live. My name is Sharon Blackmore, and today I'm going to be talking to you about kind of a clever way to audition edge-to-edge designs for your quilts. While we wait for people to join us, I thought I might just mention that myself and three of the other hand-guided educators, Jody Robinson, Ava Birch, and Karen Marchetti, are doing a special kind of a live chat, well, not a live chat, but it's a recorded chat with each other that we release once a week, and it's called The Latest Thread. And just wanted to encourage you all to go and check it out. We're looking for feedback from anybody in our groups that have any questions or topics that they'd like to see covered. And so we'd really appreciate it if you had one that you could post it in the group and just put the hashtag latest thread, because we can continually check for that in the group. So we want to make sure we include you in some of the topics and questions that we answer on our little episodes. So be sure to check that out. As well as I know, Gamel, we are all working really hard on some more educational content for you, so you want to keep staying in touch with us, checking back very often, reading the newsletters to make sure that you don't miss any good stuff that you want to be involved in. So with that being said, let's get started with our topic for today, which is, again, a little trick on how to audition edge-to-edge designs for your quilts. I have a little product here, and it's in the title of this video. It's right up there in the title of the video, so that you can check back and write it down so that you can look for it. And it's just what I've used in the past, but not necessarily what you have to use. It's just a product that I found handy. I picked it up at our Gamel dealer in St. Albert, Quilt Essentials. And it's called a Unique Long Arm Pattern Tracing Film. And what it is, it's a big roll. I don't know how much comes on this roll. 8 1/4 yards long, and it's 20 inches wide. So this roll of film opens up somewhere, and it's completely clear, but it's got some little dark lines on either side. And so what this is useful for is you can put it right down on top of your quilt, and you can see right through it, and you can draw on top of the film so that you can audition what you're going to design. Now, typically when I'm doing custom work, I'll use like a transparency paper and a dry erase marker and a piece of batting to draw on my quilts. Because what happens when we are coming up with ideas for our quilts, especially for custom, is if we're not drawing to the scale of the size of piecing and the spaces that are on the quilt, sometimes we get a bit of a different result. And so by drawing to scale, that really helps us get an idea of what the finished quilt is going to look like. So why not use this kind of idea for not just custom quilting, but for edge-to-edge quilting? So what I've done is I just printed out 3 designs that are edge-to-edge that come with the Creative Studio software. And I printed them out on just regular paper, but this would be ideal for you to, if you have lots of paper pantographs, you would put this pattern tracing film right over top of one of the repeats of your pantograph, and then you would draw the design, and this time use a permanent marker so that the marks don't rub off, because you're going to want to keep this. So you would literally just draw right over top and trace at least one repeat of the design. That way you can pull the transparency paper, this pattern tracing film, and put it right over top of your quilt to see where the stitching is going to lie and if you're happy with the way it looks. Quilters are just so very visual. Actually, people in general, we're just really visual, but quilting specifically really helps to have kind of a pre-visual to figure out what you're going to put on there, what that end result is going to look like. So this is a really great way to audition that. So I've thought about some of the things that might be helpful for you to consider when you're choosing these designs and you're looking at them. Not only just does it look pretty, but is it functional as well. So I've got 3 designs. I've got 3 here, kind of different densities. I've got one that's a little bit more open, one that's a little bit more dense, but a really simple design still, and then one that's a little bit more busy with some feathers and paisley and swirl shapes in there. And here's what I think about when I'm choosing a design for an edge-to-edge quilt. The first thing I'm going to look at is the scale of the piecing. And this is a really great way to use this tool, because when you put this design right over top of your quilt, you can see if the scale of the design suits the scale of the piecing. Typically, if you've got something that's got lots of open space, like this particular quilt is pieced, but it's not heavily pieced. There's some space in between. So you could put a design on there that's a little bit more open, and I'm just going to draw this one so you can see the exact process. And here's the other benefit of doing this exercise, is what I'm doing right now isn't just putting the design down on pattern tracing film. This is establishing muscle memory so that when I go to quilt this out, I'll have a little sense of familiarity with the path of the design. As you can see, I'm not being super fussy with staying exactly on some of these lines, and that's something that you can give yourself a little bit of grace with when you're quilting. Is I try to stay about 1/4 of an inch away from the line. Try not to kind of wander off further than that. But if you're off just a little bit and you take the design away, you don't even see that at all on the quilt. So we can be a little bit less obsessed with that. So see where we can see my other pen was a little bit lighter. That marker was different. This one's a little bit of a darker or a thicker tipped Sharpie, and it gave me a better line, so I can really see what that design's going to look like in this space. So this design matches the scale of the piecing quite well. It touches everything. It's not overly heavily quilted. However, if I really like busy quilting, I can put a more dense design on it. There's not really a right or wrong with that. What I want to just talk about is the minimum that you should do. And I have a little quilt underneath here. I'm just going to sneak it out from the bottom. I thought I was going to talk about it last, but it turns out I'm going to talk about it next. These are just a few little, I guess I should quilt them. I found in a little drawer this morning a little stack of little mini quilts that I've made over the years that I've never quilted. So let's take a look at this same design that we looked on the previous one and look at it on something with much smaller piecing. And you can see that there's a lot more open space, and although it touches all of the patches, it doesn't really match the density of the quilt itself. So here's what can happen is any bulky intersections that end up not getting quilted down, like this one right here where it's got like lots of, it's a busy intersection right there, so it's got lots of fabric buildup. If we don't end up putting a line close to that, then that stitched around can end up standing up a little bit more. So for a quilt like this with more piecing, I would increase the density of the design to match the scale of the piecing so that everything kind of laid pretty much close to the same. However, there is another consideration because, you know, like we're quilting and some of the designs that we pick, they're really, really pretty, but we have to remember that they need to be functional as well. Because when we're quilting it, it's not just for looks. We're using these quilts, we're giving them away to people who are using them and maybe don't know how much work that we've put into them, and we want them to last for these people that we're gifting them to, right? So the quilting really does become a practical part of the whole quilting process because we want our quilts to last a long time, we want them to stay together. And that's why I like to increase the density of the stitching design to match the piecing. Now, if you're a computerized quilter, you have the ability to do that with your software. As a hand-guided quilter, it means you may have to choose a different design. And so that's why this exercise is really, really beneficial. It's beneficial for hand-guided quilters, but you know, for those of you who are using Creative Studio software in particular, you do have the ability to import a photo of the quilt and audition designs right on the screen. So even as a computerized quilter, you could do this, but you do have that built into your software for you to use. So I just don't want to make anyone feel like they're excluded in this, what you can do with this. So here's another design that we can look at that would be very appropriate for a busy quilt. See how the lines of the stitching would pretty much nice and evenly touch everything and hold it down. So, which brings me to my next suggestion for picking designs for your quilts, and that is to look at the fabrics that are in the quilt. Are they really busy? Are they really simple? Are they solids? We talked about this topic a little bit more on our latest thread episode where we discussed about auditioning designs. But you can physically see here now, if I put a busy design on here with feathers and paisley and swirls and things, it's a little bit more competition for the eye than it is if I pick something that's a little bit more simple, a little bit more space. This quilt in particular isn't really heavily pieced. As well as choosing something that is more about movement than it is about a design itself. I've seen lots of beautiful patterns that you can purchase that are just absolutely gorgeous, and they've got like ferns and they've got flowers and big motifs and fancy things, and your eye has to look at all of those things to try to determine what that is. So when you put one of those designs over top of a quilt that's already got lots of those busy elements in it, you are just adding more busy to it. Now that's going to be a personal choice for you, as again, anything that I'm suggesting is not really a right or wrong, but it's a reason why I do things a certain way or why I choose some of the designs that I do. So looking at the fabrics, we can see that this particular quilt would look fantastic with just a design on it that's just movement, and it doesn't have to be something that's really, really busy. So it can be, this one's just a simple open leaf with a little bit of a vein in there. So you can see what a difference that makes. So that's my tip for you. I hope that you find it helpful. You'll want to keep, basically every piece that you cut off of this, you'll want to roll up. If you're a hand-guided quilter, you want to roll that up and keep it either separate or with the paper pantograph that you have rolled up, stored somewhere. You want to be able to identify easily what this design is. So that's why I would recommend storing it with that. And then when your customer is there, or your friends are there, or whoever it is that you're quilting for, even if it's just yourself, you can pull this out and have an instant preview of what the stitching is going to look like on your particular quilt. So that's my tip for today. I hope you guys do remember to tune in every day at 3 o'clock Central Time for more tips and tricks and great ideas from the Gamma Education team. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions or any other ideas that maybe contribute to this or build on this, please go ahead and type them. Love to hear what you guys have to come up with. So hope you guys have an enjoyable rest of your day, and thanks for watching. Bye bye.